Welcome to part 16 of the Ultimate Unsolved Mysteries Iceberg. In this series, we deep dive cases including true crime, mysterious disappearances, myths and legends, strange events, cryptids, internet mysteries, and more. The slaying of Tamoko Takawa. On the morning of March 10th, 1959, an office worker found the body of a woman floating near the Miyashita Bridge over the Zenpukuji River in Tokyo's Suganami ward. Dressed in a green suit, silk blouse, and white undergarments, her belongings were scattered nearby. Initially suspected of drowning due to the absence of visible injuries and her missing shoes, an autopsy later indicated she might have been strangled, evidenced by marks on her neck. Fluids from two individuals were also detected, prompting a deeper investigation into her acquaintances. The deceased was identified as Tamoko Takawa, a 27-year-old flight attendant from Ashiya City, Hyogo Prefecture. Raised Catholic, she moved to Tokyo for nursing school before working as a nurse in Ashiya, and then returning to Tokyo. Thanks to her influential uncle, she transitioned careers to become a stewardess for the British Overseas Airway Corporation. Takawa was selected from among 300 applicants and was set to commence her first flight on March 13, 1959. But she disappeared after attending a birthday party on March 8th. Belgian-born Louis Charles Vermeersch, a Catholic priest, emerged as a suspect after Takawa's notebook entries and a parcel linked him to her. Despite undergoing questioning and displaying signs of physical stress, Vermeersch denied any romantic involvement with Takawa, stating their meeting was purely for consultation. However, police found evidence suggesting a prior relationship. Witnesses reported sightings of Vermeersch around the time of Takawa's disappearance. Despite these allegations, Vermeersch's alibis, provided by church members, were met with skepticism. Just days before a scheduled police interview, Vermeersch left Japan on an Air France flight, claiming church orders and a desire to visit his aging parents. His departure left many questions unanswered, and despite never being formally charged, the cloud of suspicion never fully lifted. Vermeersch lived out his life in Canada, passing away in 2017 without making public comments on the case. Tamoko Takawa's murder remains unsolved, officially closed by the police in 1974. It's unclear to me if the DNA evidence in this case was kept. However, given that the case was closed, I suspect that it may not have been. In my view, it looks as though Vermeersch was, at the very least, engaging in an inappropriate relationship with Tamoko. As a Catholic priest, Vermeersch was of course expected to be celibate. This may provide an explanation for why he left Japan prior to being interviewed. However, as to whether he played any part in her slaying, there doesn't appear to be any specific evidence in favor of that position. While the timing of his departure is suspicious, self-preservation is a strong instinct, especially when the alternative is being caught up in a foreign legal jurisdiction. Further, based on the evidence, it appears that the Japanese authorities may have focused their interest on Vermeersch. I note that the Japanese authorities do tend to blame criminality within Japan largely on foreigners. This fits the narrative that Japanese society is a safe and high-trust society, susceptible to threats from the outside. At any rate, my hope is that despite the closure of the case, DNA evidence has been kept, so that Tomoko's family can at least have some sense of closure. The Pope Lick Monster. The Pope Lick Monster, a cryptid of Kentucky folklore, resides near the Pope Lick Trestle. This creature, part man, part goat, and sometimes even part sheep, is said to reside beneath a railroad trestle bridge over Pope Lick Creek near Louisville, Kentucky. Over time, it has become a subject of legend, with various stories attempting to explain its existence and malevolent behavior. The origins of the Pope Lick Monster are as murky as the tales that surround it. Some stories suggest the creature is the result of a circus train accident that allowed a freak show specimen to escape, while others propose it might have origins in dark, supernatural forces. Another version posits it as a vengeful spirit or entity tied to the land itself, perhaps an amalgamation of local fears and the human penchant for creating monsters out of the unknown. Other theories propose that it is a local variation of the Wendigo. The legend suggests the creature can use voice mimicry to lure unsuspecting individuals onto the trestle, leading to tragic outcomes. Despite the trestle being an active railway line with heavy freight trains passing multiple times a day, the myth of the bridge being abandoned and safe to explore persists, often with fatal consequences. The physical and psychological danger posed by the trestle, coupled with the monster's lore, continues to attract thrill seekers and the curious despite widespread warnings of the very real risks involved. But back to the dangers associated with the Pope-Lick trestle. This fictional cryptid unfortunately boasts an extremely real and horrifying body count. The tragic allure of the Pope-Lick monster legend has led to several fatal incidents at the Pope Creek train trestle. In 1988, 17-year-old J.C. Baum lost his life to an oncoming train, and another individual was injured in the same attempt to traverse the trestle. 6 years later, a man met his demise after his ATV flipped on the tracks, leaving him stranded in the path of an oncoming train. In 2000, a 19-year-old's life was cut short after he fell from the trestle while hunting the Goatman. He was struck by a passing train. Another incident occurred on April 23, 2016, when a 26-year-old woman was struck and killed by a train in her quest for the monster. The woman's boyfriend narrowly escaped death by clinging to the trestle's edge. The dangers of the trestle were highlighted again on May 26, 2019, when 15-year-old Savannah Bright died at the site. Her friend also suffered serious but non-life-threatening injuries in the same incident. Given the dangers associated with the purported stomping grounds of this cryptid, I would strongly urge potential thrill seekers to simply not seek the creature out. Did Hitler escape Berlin to South America in 1945? The narrative of Hitler's escape to South America post-World War II is a conspiracy theory that has intrigued the public for decades. Despite the lack of concrete evidence to support these claims, the theory continues to persist in popular culture. The theory posits that rather than meeting his end in 1945 within the confines of his Berlin bunker, Hitler, alongside his companion Eva Braun, managed to flee to South America. This speculation is fueled by various accounts and supposed sightings, contributing to a sprawling web of conjectures and stories. Further supporting these theories are two additional facts. First, prior to World War II, many Latin American countries had large populations of German immigrants and German descendants. These communities could have provided significant cover for Hitler and Braun to blend in. Second, these Latin American countries often had governments which were, let's just say, sympathetic to the Nazi cause. The origins of this theory can be traced back to the immediate post-war period. The ambiguity surrounding Hitler's fate, coupled with the onset of the Cold War, provided fertile ground for rumors and disinformation. Soviet disinformation campaigns, alongside genuine curiosity and skepticism about the official narratives, further muddied the waters. A British investigation undertaken immediately after the war concluded that Hitler and Eva Braun did indeed end themselves in the bunker. Adding fuel to the fire, the CIA has investigated this issue and was unable to reach the definitive conclusion of the British. Declassified CIA documents have shown that the agency explored the possibility of Hitler living incognito in Latin America, lending a semblance of credibility to the escape theory. However, these documents simply maintain the possibility of him living in South America and do not have actual evidence in favor of it. Dwight Eisenhower, the Supreme Allied Commander, expressed concern with respect to Hitler's potential survival in the post-war years. Eyewitness accounts and historical consensus uphold the belief that Hitler died in his bunker in 1945. Despite the lack of credible evidence and the dismissal of the escape theory by mainstream historians, the narrative continues to captivate the imagination of many. This begs the question, why is this theory still so popular? I would suggest that the main reason for the popularity of the theory is that Hitler and the Nazis are familiar to virtually everybody, regardless of general historical knowledge. Combine this with the larger-than-life figure created by the Nazi propaganda machine, it seems virtually inconceivable to some that Hitler could have died in the way he did. In a footnote to this entry, the History Channel was somehow able to make a 3-season program stretching over the course of 24 episodes discussing this topic. They really must have been running thin on legitimate content. By what? Episode 2 or 3? The Disappearance of Angelisa Rivera Ruiz. Okay, so before I get into this case, I would like to say that I've noticed a very disturbing trend in my research for this series. Some missing persons cases simply get no traction whatsoever at all. No news articles, nothing. Just a simple entry on NamUs, the National Missing and Unidentified Persons System. Anyway, since this platform is growing, I want to bring more attention to these cases. Angelisa Rivera Ruiz, 24, vanished on November 16, 2020, in Zion, Illinois. Her last known location was near a Walmart at 4000 Route 173 in Zion, where she was observed running into a nearby forest. Angelisa was at the Walmart with a friend on the day she disappeared. After receiving a phone call, she stepped outside the store and was subsequently seen sprinting into the adjacent wooded area. That was the last time anyone saw or heard from her. At the moment she went missing, Angelisa had no cash, lacked a winter jacket, and had no means of transport. I note that details surrounding her disappearance are highly disturbing, suggesting the call may have presented an imminent threat to her life. Attempts to reach Angelisa via her cell phone have been unsuccessful. Search teams with dogs explored the forest where she was last spotted, yet they didn't discover any sign of her presence. According to NamUs, Angelisa has connections in Chicago and Plano, Illinois, as well as Memphis, Tennessee. The fate and whereabouts of Angelisa Rivera Ruiz are still a mystery, and her disappearance case remains open and unresolved. If you have any information with respect to this case, I urge you to reach out to Zion Police Department. Jimmy here, the YouTuber behind the Lazy Chill Zone channel, asking a quick favor. If you're enjoying my content, please hit the like and subscribe buttons, and the notification bell. My goal is to create the most expansive iceberg series in YouTube history, and I want you all along for the ride. Also, consider signing up for a YouTube membership, joining the Patreon, and joining the Discord. In terms of YouTube memberships and the Patreon, every little bit helps, and your funding allows me to keep up the pace creating high-quality content for you. Also, if you're inclined, check out the merch store and pick something cool up while also supporting the channel. The Slaying of Inejiro Asanuma. On October 12, 1960, Japan witnessed a shocking event that would be remembered for decades: the assassination of Inejiro Asanuma, the chairman of the Japan Socialist Party. Adding to the shock, the slaying took place during a live televised debate at Hibiya Public Hall in Tokyo. This event, perpetrated by 17-year-old Otoya Yamaguchi, a right-wing ultranationalist, highlighted the intense ideological divisions within the country during the Cold War era. Inejiro Asanuma was a controversial figure, known for his outspoken support of socialism and his opposition to Japan's security treaty with the United States. He advocated for closer ties with the People's Republic of China. Further, he declared the United States as the shared enemy of China and Japan during a visit to Beijing in 1959. Asanuma's radical stance made him a target for right-wing groups, who viewed his policies as a threat to the traditional Japanese way of life and the imperial system. Yamaguchi, who belonged to a right-wing nationalist group, saw Asanuma's actions and statements as unforgivable betrayals of Japan's national interests. On the day of the assassination, Yamaguchi infiltrated a large crowd at the debate, armed with a wakizashi, a form of Japanese short sword often mistaken for a katana. His attack on Asanuma was swift and fatal, striking him in the left side and causing internal bleeding that led to his death within minutes. The slaying was not only a tragic moment but also a spectacle that was broadcast to millions, leaving an indelible mark on the national consciousness. The aftermath of Asanuma's assassination was tumultuous. The incident sparked massive protests, with thousands taking to the streets to demand accountability and express their outrage. The political crisis threatened to destabilize the government, prompting then Prime Minister Ikeda to deliver a glowing memorial speech despite political differences. Despite this, Yamaguchi's act was not without its supporters. He became a martyr to some right-wing groups, who viewed his actions as a heroic defense of traditional Japanese values. Yamaguchi's imprisonment and subsequent self-ending 3 weeks after the slaying added another layer of complexity to the tragedy. His final note, written with toothpaste on his cell wall, expressed a fanatical devotion to the emperor and a willingness to sacrifice his life for his country. So now you're asking the obvious question: what's the mystery here? Well, not everything is wrapped up in a nice, neat little package. There is significant speculation that Yamaguchi did not act alone, and that he may have been part of a broader ultranationalist conspiracy theory. Yamaguchi vehemently denied acting in concert with a group. However, the truth of the matter died with him. Unfortunately, my access to Japanese sources is limited, and also limited to auto-translations, which are quite frankly not great for Japanese. That said, I suspect that ultranationalist groups were heavily infiltrated by law enforcement officers during the time period in question. If Yamaguchi was acting in concert as part of a larger conspiracy, I suspect the conspirators would have been at best a small group. Further, while the Japanese socialist movement withered following this slaying, I would imagine that more senior ultranationalists were acutely aware of the risk of the opposite. This slaying could have very easily bolstered the resolve of the socialist movement in Japan. That said, a 17-year-old hyped up on nationalist fervor was unlikely to consider this. As such, I'm of the opinion that Yamaguchi most likely did act alone. However, again, my access to Japanese sources is limited. If you've got access to Japanese sources and have studied the case in the original language, I would love to hear from you in the comments, especially since I want to do a long-form video on this event. The Bloody Mary Summoning Ritual. The urban legend of Bloody Mary conjures images of shadowy figures and whispered secrets in darkened rooms. Central to this chilling tale is the ritual of summoning a spectral entity through a mirror in a dimly lit space. Participants are always required to recite an incantation, which includes some repeating versions of the name Bloody Mary. The ritual taps into deep-seated fears and the human fascination with the supernatural, making it a staple of slumber parties and dares for generations. The origins of the Bloody Mary legend are as murky as the stories themselves, with several historical figures speculated to be the inspiration behind this ghostly apparition. Among them are Mary Worth, purportedly a witch executed for her dark arts; Elizabeth Bathory, the notorious Blood Countess, known for her allegedly gruesome crimes and covered in a previous entry, is another candidate. Queen Mary of England is perhaps the most commonly cited source of this apparition. Her reign was marked by her attempts to re-establish Catholicism and the resultant execution of numerous Protestants, earning her the moniker Bloody Mary in her lifetime. Her efforts to restore Catholicism in England after her father, Henry VIII, established the Church of England, left a strong cultural memory. That said, despite numerous candidates being named, Bloody Mary's legend is too widespread to be tied to a single historical individual specifically. But what about the actual urban legend itself? How come so many otherwise rational and put-together people have had experiences with Bloody Mary? One potential explanation is that they did have legitimate paranormal experiences. However, it isn't necessary to delve into the paranormal to explain Bloody Mary. Looking into a mirror with low lighting for an extended time can lead to visual distortions akin to hallucinations. One might observe their facial features warping, vanishing, shifting, or even transforming. This suggests a real scientific basis for the Bloody Mary illusion, since it is always done in low light in front of a mirror. Another explanation for Bloody Mary is mass psychogenic illness. Bloody Mary rituals are often performed at slumber parties, where the participants are primed for a paranormal or supernatural experience. If an individual believes that others are experiencing a phenomenon when reciting the Bloody Mary summoning ritual, they will be more likely to experience this as well. Just a quick aside, and putting aside the reality of paranormal issues in general for a minute. Finding out that our beliefs in urban legends and ghosts is supported by actual neurocognitive and psychological science and understanding is extremely satisfying. Since this is part 16 of this series and you're still watching, I'm thinking you may agree with me as well. The dark side of the rainbow. The theory known as dark side of the rainbow posits a fascinating synchronicity between Pink Floyd's 1973 album, The Dark Side of the Moon, and the 1939 film, The Wizard of Oz. According to enthusiasts, when the album is played alongside the film, numerous moments of apparent correspondence between the two emerge, creating a unique viewing and listening experience. This phenomenon was first brought to widespread attention through a detailed examination by journalist Charlie Savage. Further, it was Savage who coined the catchy term, dark side of the rainbow. His findings sparked a surge of interest, leading to extensive analysis by fans. I found that 3 particular moments are routinely cited as proof of this theory. Breathe, with Dorothy's balance. As the song Breathe plays, Dorothy is seen performing a tightrope-like walk. The lyrical mention of balance coincides with her careful steps, suggesting a thematic link between the song's message and Dorothy's actions at that moment. The song Time and Dorothy's running sequence. The transition in the film to Dorothy running away from home to save Toto aligns with the line, "No one told you when to run," from the song Time. This lyrical and visual pairing enhances the thematic resonance of the moment, with the concept of time and urgency reflected both in song and on screen. Brain Damage and the Scarecrow's scene. The album's track, Brain Damage, starts playing almost simultaneously with the movie's If I Only Had a Brain scene. The song's lyrics, mentioning lunacy and paths, seem to mirror the Scarecrow's erratic behavior and quest for a brain. Despite the compelling instances of synchronicity cited by fans, Pink Floyd and their production team have consistently denied any intentional connection. David Gilmour, Pink Floyd's guitarist and vocalist, has dismissed the theory as the product of someone with too much time on their hands. Nick Mason, the band's drummer, humorously suggested that the album was actually based on The Sound of Music rather than The Wizard of Oz. Alan Parsons, an engineer on The Dark Side of the Moon, echoed these sentiments, stating that any synchronicity was coincidental. In favor of this, Parsons delivered the quote, "killing blow" to the theory, highlighting the technical impossibility of intentionally syncing the album with the film. According to Parsons, given the lack of VCRs at the time of the album's production, They could not have been synced up. I suppose, though, when you're Pink Floyd, you don't need a VCR and you could rent a projector in a theater. But why? I think the real magic of the dark side of the rainbow is the incredible synchronicity that arose completely unplanned by anyone. Mongolian Death Worm. Just a quick preface before I start this one. Keep an open mind on this cryptid. This is one of the few that may actually exist in some form close to its description. Nestled within the vast, unforgiving expanse of the Gobi Desert, a sinister cryptid is said to lurk, the Mongolian Death Worm. Known in Mongolia as Olgoi Korkoi, which translates to intestine worm, this cryptid is reputed for its deadly capabilities and elusive nature. The creature is described as resembling a cow's intestine, a sausage-like entity, approximately 2 feet long, devoid of a discernible head or legs. Legends assert that mere contact with this being results in instant death, a claim that underscores the fear and respect it commands within the Gobi's vast landscapes. Historical accounts of the Mongolian Death Worm date back to the early 20th century, when Western explorers first documented local tales of this fearsome entity. The most notable of these was Roy Chapman Andrews, whose encounters with Mongolian officials in the 1920s revealed a profound belief in the worm's existence, despite no physical evidence. These officials described it minutely, with one even claiming knowledge of a man who had seen the worm and survived to recount his tale. Despite numerous expeditions aimed at uncovering the truth behind this legendary creature, concrete evidence of its existence remains elusive. Notably, Czech cryptozoologist Ivan Mackerle dedicated significant portions of his life to this quest, employing innovative methods inspired by the novel Dune. And when I'm saying a significant portion of his life, Mackerle conducted 3 full expeditions to Mongolia, taking place in 1990, 1992, and 2004. Speculation on the death worm's biological nature has led some to suggest it could be a misidentified or yet to be discovered species. Common speculation includes a type of limbless lizard or skink adapted to the desert's harsh conditions. Others propose it might share characteristics with known venomous creatures, capable of spitting venom or emitting electric shocks to incapacitate its prey or defend itself. Given the vastness and emptiness of the Gobi Desert, and given that there is nothing inherently fantastical about the Mongolian Death Worm, I'm going to come out and say, this one could exist. And this isn't like the skunk ape, where it could exist as a released orangutan or something. There is a non-zero chance that a creature fitting the description of the Mongolian Death Worm could actually exist. Okay, so take a moment to hear me out. The Mongolian Death Worm's existence, while unproven, aligns with precedents of animals once deemed mythical, but later discovered. The giant squid, for instance, was a maritime legend until real evidence emerged in the 19th century, showcasing how additional exploration can validate folklore. Similarly, the okapi, once a creature of African legend, was officially recognized by science in the early 20th century, underlining the possibility of undiscovered species in remote areas. The vast, uncharted expanses of the Gobi Desert provide a plausible habitat for such an undiscovered creature, mirroring these analogous cases where species remained hidden until technological and exploratory advancements allowed for their discovery. Given the challenging terrain and the desert's sheer size, it's conceivable that the death worm, like the giant squid and okapi, could exist. Is the Mongolian death worm likely to exist? That's a firm no. Is the Mongolian death worm plausible, unlike the vast majority of other land-based cryptids? That's a firm yes. Anyway, let's solve this one for Ivan Mackerle. That dude was an absolute legend. The disappearance of Carl Robert Schull. This case is a recommendation from Discord member Black Rabbit. Originally from Wyoming, Shull had moved to Colorado in early 2012, aiming to invest in the burgeoning pot industry. His last confirmed sighting was on November 28, 2013, under circumstances that soon led to more questions than answers. Shull's sudden disappearance followed a heated argument with his business partner, after which he was never heard from again. The case took a perplexing turn when Shull's debit card was utilized at an Aurora gas station on the day he vanished, albeit not by him. Subsequent transactions occurred across different locations, including Elise, Nebraska, and Fort Morgan, Colorado, and culminated in a $70 dinner purchase at a steakhouse in Aurora. Notably, surveillance footage captured a man using Shull's card to buy cigarettes and signing Shull's name, yet this individual was not Shull. Authorities speculated that Shull might have been traveling with his dog, a blue heeler named Bez, possibly in a Chevrolet S10 pickup truck with Wyoming plates. Despite exhaustive efforts by both Colorado and Wyoming law enforcement, Shull's fate remains unknown, and foul play has been suspected. Unfortunately, there's not too much information out there on Carl Robert Shull. Again, this is one of these missing persons cases that is so important to profile, given that even a small bit of awareness to the case can make all the difference. If you have information, please reach out to the Aurora, Colorado Police Department or the Casper, Wyoming Police Department, the Kentucky Meat Shower. In March of 1876, a peculiar and unprecedented event occurred in Bath County, Kentucky, an occurrence that would come to be known as the Kentucky Meat Shower. On a clear, sunny morning, residents of the area witnessed what appeared to be chunks of meat falling from the sky. This bizarre shower spanned an area of approximately 100 by 50 yards and lasted for several minutes, leaving behind pieces of meat that ranged in size. Some of these pieces were as light as snowflakes, and others were up to 3 inches in length. The event quickly garnered national attention, with newspapers like the New York Times and Scientific American reporting on the phenomenon. Theories about its cause ranged from the plausible to the downright fantastical. Initial speculation included everything from the meat being a type of cyanobacteria that expands into a jelly-like mass when wet, to more eccentric ideas such as a meteor shower of meat. The most widely accepted explanation, however, involves a flock of vultures. And trust me, there's a reason this is the last video on this list. So yeah, as you probably guessed, this is going to get really weird really fast. Vultures are known to regurgitate their food when they need to make a quick escape. The theory posits that a group of vultures flying over the area might have vomited their stomach contents while in flight, leading to the meat shower. This theory is supported by the known behaviors of vultures and the types of meat found, which included lung tissue, muscle, and cartilage, suggesting a variety of animals could have been the source. Despite the plausibility of the vulture theory, the Kentucky Meat Shower remains one of the more curious incidents in American folklore. Also, quick aside, the Kentucky Meat Shower sounds like a shock video that circulated the internet circa 2005. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Also, make sure to leave a comment as well. I read all comments and try to respond to most. Also, check out my Patreon at patreon.com/lazychillzone. In the alternative, check out the YouTube membership and sign up for cool perks. Signing up for the Patreon and the YouTube membership help me devote way more time to creating content for you. Shout out to my patrons Noah Schubert, Kazakh Cutie, Kurt the Squirt, Monoxide Wendigo, and Jeffer Metcalf. Also, big shout out to YouTube shout out tier member Jordan All. Until next time, stay healthy and peace out.